Welcome to my budget deck channel where I try to make decks as cheap and playable as possible. So if this is something you'd be interested in, then why not subscribe? Okay, disclaimer first, this deck is awful. I'm not saying like this specific variant, I mean every single Morphtronic list that is somewhat trying to be cheap and is not the FTK variant and whatnot. And even the FTK variant crumbles under like lots of different things. So Morphtronic got new support, and the new support is like, it's decent, but it's still kind of lackluster. The only way why this deck is like somewhat playable is one specific card, which is funny enough, a rare card, good on you Konami, and that is because this card is not a hard once per turn, which of course Morphtronics in general aren't, because they've been printed before this was a massive thing. But the thing is, without this card, without this combo of using two of these at least, you get basically to do nothing, and that's a bit of an issue. And then once you have this combo, which is like an infinite combo, you can spam, you can spam, you can spam, you can FTK, you can build crazy boards. But the problem is, try building crazy boards or doing the whole FTK thing if you actually have to play on a budget, because you can't. All of the cards you need from the extra deck are super rares, or most of them are ultra rares, so you can't really do much. And that's the thing, you need stuff like Auroradon, you need certain things, like even if you do like a low-key kind of like, oh, let's build like only some kind of stuff, you still need like 1, 2, 3, like either Linkaribu or Almirage, one of these two, and then you need like some other Synchros, you need Churia Beast and whatnot, and you will be stacking it up while still having to use quite a lot of super rares in your deck profile, because you do need machine duplication, very important, because it's not that easy to actually get to Morphtronic Telephone out. You need to run all of your other Morphtronics basically, and then the thing is like, it's not really like a, well, it's a pure Morphtronic deck, and you actually can use Power Tool Braver Dragon as well, but then you do run some other bricks, and it is very, very expensive if you actually want to be running this deck like with a functioning extra deck. So I tried to make a deck that doesn't really do this and doesn't really have a functioning extra deck. You can already see it's quite budgety, it's quite on the down low, and there's certain cards that's why I have this massive list here of cards that you can add that make a bit of a difference, and if you have them, obviously you can use them, but you don't have to craft crazy stuff, and you can still enjoy them if you for some reason are a fan of them. Maybe it's the anime, maybe it's that kind of stuff, and you just want to be playing them because you drew a few out of a pack, and now you're like, well, I do not want to go super ham and off the extra deck stuff, especially considering at one point Auroradon might be banned, or at one point certain stuff is going to happen. If it's going to be too crazy, then stuff will not work out the same way anymore, and this would be a list that is fairly playable, unless for some reason Telephone gets hit. This card is kind of busted, but it's not that easy to pull off, and it's not that crazy in comparison to most other FTKs. So I think so far it's fine in the TCG and OCG, so I don't think this is going to get hit anytime soon. Anyway, we play triple cell phone. You technically can cut one if you don't play the whole machine duplication thing, then you can technically cut down one if you don't want to craft 3A, same for like a smartphone, but it would hamper the deck a tiny bit. This deck kind of relies on you spamming stuff onto the board, and cell phone effect is a way of getting into telephone, kind of, and telephone then does stuff, and that's how you kind of link climb into important things like Appaloosa, one of the ultra rares that you do run in this deck, because it's not that hard to actually get out. And yeah, that's why it's in here. You can cut like one of this, you can try to cut one of this if you really want to shave down on the super rares, but yeah, I wouldn't suggest to do so, but you would be able to survive without it. But obviously every Morphtronic that you cut makes it harder for a cell phone or for a smartphone to actually get their effects off, because then your deck has even less Morphtronics, and then you can summon even less stuff. And sadly, none of the other extra deck, the main deck ones that would be low level enough to actually summon out are good enough. The smartphone thing is a bit different. Technically, you can play cards like Morphtronic Repair Unit as well, and this kind of stuff works as well, and then you can do certain things. What I find with Repair Unit though, especially in this kind of deck, is you have to send one Morphtronic monster from your hand to the graveyard. A lot of the time, you might not actually have enough Morphtronic monsters in your hand to do so, and it's better if you obviously play stuff like with TG Striker and then Hyper Librarian, and then you draw into stuff and you always have things. But with this specific variant, you kind of did run out of it, so I did not want to include it. You can obviously do so if you please. Telephone, already a great card. The first effect is obviously the one, the attack position effect is the one that matters a lot. The defense position effect though isn't terrible, and sometimes when you know you can't keep link spamming, it is worth it sometimes to actually use the effect of telephone and summon the last one in defense position, and then possibly send one card to the graveyard, because then you might have enough cards into the graveyard that they can shuffle back into the deck to draw some cards off of the second package that we run, which is the Infinitracks, and that can be helpful just to keep in mind. It's not a thing that you should be doing, but it's a thing you can be doing. Smartphone searches stuff, and this effect looks at stuff. I don't know, the defense position effects of cell phone and smartphone are terrible. And while I'm talking about these three, I feel like Konami was somewhat sponsored by Nokia with this one. Not sure why the good ones are all telecommunication devices. We'll never know, but it is what it is. Morphtronic Borden, a card that I had to include, and I know it pains to craft this card. It's a super rare, and we're not playing it because of the effect, although the effect is not completely awful if you have to finish a game somehow and you kind of lack certain stuff, but this card is in here mainly because of the fact that it's a level 3 Earth Machine. We were so close to not having to run this card if Maganin wasn't Thunder for some reason. Come on, like, because Infinitrack sadly lock you into machine monsters, and there is a combo where you do need to go into your Infinitrack stuff first to then be able to use the whole combo and to summon stuff out of your extra deck to go into your Power Tool Braver Dragon. And for this, you sadly need Borden, because you can only summon Earth Machine monsters from that point onwards, and that is the only level 3 Earth Machine Morphtronic there is. Very, 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 very unfortunate, but it is what it is. At least the effect isn't like abysmal, it's just terrible. Morphtronic Remoten, a card that it's nice. It's in level 3, which is sometimes nice. It can be a bit annoying for telephone, but most of the time that's nice. You kind of want that, because this card plus Gadget Gamer is also your Power Tool Braver Dragon, because you can go use this card as a tuner and then use your hauler to actually do this. But then we have the next problem with Gadget Gamer. It doesn't actually search your Morphtronic Remoten. It's not actually really a Morphtronic support. It's a Morphtronic support card, but also a machine support card. And I would have preferred if they went down the whole like Morphtronic kind of bit. Now it's nicer because you can run this card actually in a lot of different decks, and it does a lot of stuff for certain decks, but sadly it cannot search Morphtronic Remoten, and that's a bit of an issue, because then you don't have a one card combo to actually go into Power Tool Braver Dragon again, and it's a mess. Like, the support, I feel like, is supporting a machine-ish play style, but also not really Morphtronics. It's a bit strange. The new trap card was kind of awful as well. I don't know what they were thinking with this one, but this card can add you like all kinds of stuff to your hand, but only if you already have stuff in your graveyard. Who would have thought? Which a lot of the time, how you get stuff in the graveyard is a Gadget Hauler, so that's quite a nice one. But other than that, you kind of have to link stuff off, but usually then you already have normal summon, and then you can't get Remoten on board, and if the whole thing is very, very iffy, and that's why we add the Infinitrack package, because it at least gives you some ways of being able to do certain things at least. One Ash Blossom, because you kind of get it for free, and you need all the good stuff cards in this deck that you can get. Gadget Gamer at 3, very, very important. This card does a lot of stuff. It searches you like your very good Morphtronics from your deck. It kind of puts another monster on board. Technically also, it can help you with certain things. If you play Scannon and then you get your Gadget Hauler out, you can go into Ultimayat Zolkin, because then you have a level 6 tuner and a level 6 non-tuner monster, so that works. And technically you could go into a level 12 Synchro if there were any worth mentioning, but we don't do that here, so that's nice. And yeah, it also is able to get one of your Morphtronics out, so you can at least with this card go into level 7. So this is really good for Power Tool Dragon, which we're not playing because Power Tool Dragon is only good in very, very, very specific circumstances. And you have to kind of build a deck around Power Tool Dragon to make it worth it. There's some stuff with Ancient Fairy Dragons and whatnots, and you can search like the DDR card that gets stuff back from your Banished Zone, the Equip, and so on. Like, it's usually like an FTK tool, so the normal Power Tool Dragon does not feature in this particular deck. But if you're really into the Morphtronic thing, this is your gateway into Power Tool Dragon. Now to the Infinitrack package, we basically just run this card that if you draw into Tunneler and Brutal Dozer and you do not have Scan in your hand, yes, Scan can actually tuck stuff back into your deck, which it's good and bad. I'll explain that in a bit. But so if we draw these two, we still have a card that we can summon off from our deck, and then we can still go into Tunneler from hand and then still get the effect off, because Tunneler is one of the two main reasons why we do run the Infinitrack package in the first place. The other reason, well, technically three actually. One of the reasons is it gets you Morphtronics into your graveyard, which can be quite nice because you can then get them back with certain stuff. You can then use them to use smartphone and so on. You can continue your combos, so this is quite nice. And technically you can even use the Brutal Dozer effect to special summon it and get a card into your graveyard without actually being restricted if you then just don't summon other monsters. So even if you drew into those two and this one, you might lose probably, but you can still do some stuff if you have another Morphtronics in your hand that you can normal summon. But that's not what we're doing. We usually want to be summoning out Tunneler. Yes, I know the Morphtronic combo, the Infinitrack combo is usually going to Trencher, and then there's all kinds of stuff, and you usually want to be searching Ancient Gear Box because that then searches Tunneler, and with Ancient Gear Ballista if you go into those. And yes, I know there's crazy crazy combos with Infinitracks. You can run them if you want to include this and make the deck a bit more consistent, make the deck a bit more powerful. You could run one Ballista, you could run one Gearbox, so you do not have to like go into this. And sometimes you have a bit of an issue because you don't run these combos with actually getting 5 other Earth Machines into the graveyard. But if you do get into some of your Morphtronic plays, then it shouldn't be much of a problem. But yes, obviously you can also search Express Bullet Train with Infinitrack River Stormer, then you get an Earth Machine back for the next turn, and so on and so on. There's quite a lot of stuff you can actually do with Infinitracks, and if you want to have a wee look into this, then that would do some good as well, but you'd have to cut certain other cards, but that is usually fine. Then with this pet package, we want to go into certain things like River Stormer, and here is the play that comes in. River Stormer can search you any Earth Machine monster from your deck, and you can either send it to the graveyard, which can be helpful, or you can actually add it to your hand. And you think, oh yeah, this is how you get telephone play started. Not really, because you're locked into Earth Machines most of the time, so it doesn't really do all that much unless you drew like this and this, and you have 2 monsters on board, and then you can still do the whole thing. And you can somehow get telephone back from your graveyard. But what you want to be searching actually most of the time is either if you for some reason haven't normal summoned it, like if you used 1 for 1 and then got your Infinitrack combo off, then you can search your Gadget Gamer, for example, or what you can search is Morphtronic Scannon, and then you already have monsters on board. You can usually shuffle like Goliath back into the deck if you don't have anything else on board, and Scannon then searches your Morphtronic Converter, and Morphtronic Converter is the reason why we have to run Borden, because Morphtronic Converter then shuffles this card back to the deck and then summons out Borden, and Borden plus Scannon actually make Power Tool Braver Dragon. So there we go, we have a searchable way to make Power Tool Braver Dragon. So we have 1 disruption for your opponent, and you hope from the Tunneler effect you draw into one of the other ones that you still have in deck, and then you have 2, and then you're okay on the crackback because you do generate some resources, and then maybe you get the whole link spam aspect of the Morphtronics, and then you can kind of recover from that, and that's somewhat around the game plan. If you have a really good board at the start, you will end on like a Palooza plus Link Karibo to protect it, plus Braver Tool, Power Tool Braver Dragon, plus 1 Psyflame Rod's Zeta. So you have some stuff on board. It's not a terrible thing. Maybe even one of these ones, one of your spell trap ones that actually does stuff. And yeah, that can be like a powerful board, but usually you will be living off of 1 or 2 disruptions plus some recovery plays on the crack bag. Not amazing. It's Morphtronics. What do we expect? It's Morphtronics. Howler is one of the, well, garnets that you can summon off of Gadget Gamer. You can summon it from hand as well, so it's not dead, but obviously you'd rather have a different card in your hand than Howler. But Scannon's effect can actually, it's a curse and a blessing at the same time. You can act 1 Morphtronic Spell Trap, but then you have to place 1 card from your hand on top of the deck. I know this is meant to be able to stack your deck for stuff like cell phone, smartphone, so these effects can go off. But it also is very annoying because if you don't have these and you don't have a way to do this, because for this card, not only can it not special summon itself if you control a Morphtronic, but you have to banish a Morphtronic monster from your hand. It doesn't even send to the graveyard. Come on, like, please. This card did not have to have that many restrictions at all. It is what it is. You have to banish 1, so you already lose 1 card in hand anyway, and then you don't even gain stuff for it. You just swap something, but it does put stuff like Howler or some of your Infinitracks back into the deck, so it can do stuff. And we do run Scannon at 3 because it's if you have any other normal summon, this is your gateway into Power Tool Braver Dragon. And you know, you have to have basically 2 other Morphtronics in your hand, but it is what it is. Sometimes that's that's how you have to play it. You can obviously run like a deck that does level 9 synchros more easily, but then you wouldn't be playing Morphtronics at all, and this still was meant to be a Morphtronic deck. That is why these ratios come into play. You could technically just run 1 and just rely on the Infinitrack search if you want to, but then you have like less opportunities to use this and still go into some other kind of stuff. And sometimes having this to special summon out from your hand and then go into your Infinitrack kind of combos, then you still have your normal summon for Gadget Gamer. That is sometimes also not too bad. Monster Reborn, just technically, like, I know lots of people would be playing a Repair Unit, which I already explained, kind of hard to get off, or a Junk Box, which isn't even a Morphtronic card by name, so that's a bit annoying. I felt like these cards work really well in certain like spammy kind of decks, but in the end, if you're locked into Earth Machines anyway when you draw them off of, for example, Tunneler, then it didn't really do all that much. Yes, you can, if you have a cell phone and then have a Junk Box, then you can use cell phone's effect twice, but you whiff a lot of the time anyway, and it's not something you really want to be relying on. So it's the same reason why like Desynchro like used to be like quite good, but it's very inconsistent, and the whole problem is that all relies on dice effects, and if you constantly roll a 1 and you don't excavate anything, then that's problematic. But also you don't really want to be playing more Morphtronics than this anyway, because they're all bad. That's a bit of the issue here. 1 for 1, that kind of starts your combo. You still want to be doing the telephone combo, you'll just do it a bit less often than in the FTK variant. I already talked about this card, it's quite nice. The defense position thing is, it's sometimes it does stuff, like sometimes it's okay. Metal Silver Armor is one of the cards that you do run for your Power Tool Dragon, just because if you go into like the Appaloosa setup, then they cannot target Appaloosa with card effects, which is quite important. And other than that, it protects some of your other stuff, can be helpful. It's not the best one, but there are hardly any better ones. You can play stuff like Train Connection, I think. Super Magic Sword would be good, but super rare. Fleur de Fleur is a card that you can run in the deck, it does stuff with, super rare. Smoke Grenade of the Thief, very good card, obviously ultra rare, and so on. So this is a bit of an issue, so I decided Metal Silver Armor is probably one of the better ones you can run if you run a budget variant, but yeah, you could also technically run 2 Life Extreme and then get 2 effects off. Basically, if you pop this, you can negate a spell trap. Well, not really, but you can do it more often than in theory. Life Extreme is the other card, makes your Braver Dragon not be able to run over by battle that easily, which is quite good. And also, you then have the choice between a negate or a destroy any card on the field. Not both, but if you then change the defense position, change an opponent's monster defense position, then you can still pop a card. And technically, it also somewhat protects you from battle from this card, but usually you want to do this disruption before they get into their big boss monsters. So yeah, this card I feel like was designed for it, and it does do some stuff. Heavy forward, just to have like an Ash Blossom bait kind of, and search your Infinitrack combos. Forbidden Chalice could go in first, could go in second. You just need to fill up your deck with some disruptions because you won't be producing that many by yourself. Forbidden Droplet, very nice card. You get it basically for free in the Master Bundles. And 2 Lost Wind for the grind game. This deck isn't too bad in it, and it's meant to go first, so some disruption here. You can fill this with basically any hand trap if you have any. Stardust Charge Warrior, because it works with your level 1 tuners and your Infinitracks if that ever comes up, and it draws you another card, so that's nice. But you can also run any other level 6 that you have if you want to. We run as a level 7 Siphon Rod Zeta because this card is a disruption. Like, it's not terrible, it's a disruption. You can use it. Cards to mention: Samurai Destroyer, technically, because it's an Earth Machine, so you can still summon it under the lock, but it's not a very good card, especially like in today's meta. It sometimes does stuff, but going first is not the best card. F.A. Dawn Drax is a card you can obviously, if you want to run level 7s, that you can play if you want to. It is what it is in the end. There's certain combos where you can like use Naturia Beast as well, even play it together with the Morphtronic Earphone, but that's another like super rare, and so on. You can already see the problem with it. We run Cloud Castle because your ability to go into level 9s isn't too bad, and sometimes in the grind game you will be having another chance with it, and if you already lost your powerful Braver Dragon, then you can summon it back, because this card triggers on special summon, not on synchro summon, so you can just do the whole effect again, and you can equip stuff from your graveyard, so that's quite good as well. Technically you could use rank 9 then, but yeah, the extra deck space is somewhat tight, so I didn't want to. We run one of this. It's one of the only rank ones that actually does stuff that isn't an ultra rare. Obviously you can play stuff like Ensemble Robin, because this card very good disruption, and you will have quite a lot of level 1s on board at times, so it's not too bad either. But this card at least stalls you for a turn, and yeah, technically can get 2 Morphtronics in the graveyard if you both need them to. Then this card's just a bit useless, but you can still link it off at this point. It does stuff, but it's not amazing. This card already explained most of it. It's not bad, like it searches you a lot of things, and that is what it's meant to do. Linkuriboh, a card that protects your Appaloosa, that's why I decided to run this over other ones. Plus you can summon it back from your graveyard, and you have so many level 1s, so this will come up. Technically, Almirage is, in certain things it's better, because it can also send Remote into the graveyard and Borden, so technically Almirage can be better, but also it has certain other issues, and from the effect I felt Linkuriboh was a bit better. Triple Infinitrack Goliath, I think with the combos how they are right now, most of the time you will only be using 2, because like I said, the whole Trencher thing is mainly only if you start with Brutal Dozer and Heavy Forward. Then you can go into the normal combo, because then you don't have to search Tunneler, because we don't want to search Tunneler with the effect of River Stormer, and since we don't run the whole Ancient gear package, we have a bit of an issue with this one, so this one is just an extra. Technically, if you really want more extra deck space, you can probably cut one Goliath, because this whole deck is like an Earth Machine deck, and it usually wants to do more stuff, so the Tunneler effect isn't terribly hard to get off. One Anger Knuckle, because that recycles certain stuff, and also it's another link monster you can go into to link off your Goliathus, so you get more stuff into the graveyard. Then you can still send this back to the deck, to the extra deck with Converter, and then start your other kind of combos once you're done. Geonation Transverser, it's okay going second. Link spammy deck, it's a normal monster, and it's a link 2. Deco Talker, Budget Hero, Appaloosa just for your first turn boards, and then the free cards. Raster Liger, obviously access code would be better for this one as well, but for your extra deck you can basically play whatever you want at this point, because this deck can be quite link spammy. You can already see for the extra deck there's so much to run. You could run Savage, you could run Cypher, Emerald, Omega. Sadly there is no good level 8 Synchro monster that is normal or rare. They're all absolutely terrible, so if you want to run level 8s, then you have to open up the pocket a tiny bit. You could run one Livestream Dragon. This card is, well, it's not really nice, because you make your life from 4,000, which would be nice if you could do like your opponent as well, but then it would be FTKable, and that wouldn't be good. You take no effect damage, can be helpful, but usually doesn't really matter that much. Technically you can stall a bit with this card, and it's summonable off of Life Extreme, so technically it's okay when you run out of equips. Then this card becomes somewhat useless. You could use the effect of Life Extreme, then go into Livestream Dragon and use this card to stall a tiny bit. Plus it's a level 8 and tuner monster, so in theory if you have one of your smartphones or telephones, you could then use it again to go into Cloud Castle and then summon back your powerful Braver Dragon. So this is a thing to consider. I tried it out, it was okay, but I wouldn't include it as an extra ultra rare card in a budget deck profile. Hope you enjoyed the deck profile, even though the deck is kind of terrible, but if you have the cards already, might as well try it out. And the Infinitracks do lots of stuff by themselves, so putting some effort crafting this one card won't bankrupt you, and you can actually use different deck profiles with this one as well. Hope you enjoyed it. Leave a like, comment, subscribe, but most importantly, I hope you have a good day.